Hello everybody and welcome to Geordie Pride. In today's episode we're diving into the world of entrepreneurship, learning and development. We're joined by Michaela Reaney, an entrepreneur, speaker and TEDx organiser who's championing equity and raising aspirations, not just in the Northeast but globally. With over a decade of entrepreneurial experience under her belt, Michaela has successfully scaled 3 businesses, navigating the complexities of growth, sales, and even the tough decisions of closing a business. She has also collaborated with some of the biggest organisations globally, including names like Rio Tinto, State Street, Amazon, British Athletics, and AO. Currently, she's at the forefront of her own company, Opportunity Global, a learning and development company, and she's also venturing into the tech world in the US. But that's not all. Michaela also is a voice in the podcasting world, having launched a UK top 10 business podcast in 2022. She's also a TEDx organiser for TEDxWomen, where she's not only creating platforms for women, non-binary people and allies to share ideas and connect, but she's also making history. Teesside hosted the first TEDxWomen event outside of London, which is a huge milestone in expanding inclusive and accessible events in our region. So as you can see, Michaela is an absolute powerhouse of a woman. And in this episode, we're going to explore Michaela's journey, her insights, and her unwavering commitment to creating a better, more equitable future. It really is a story of empowerment, innovation, and the power of community-driven change. So get ready for a super inspiring conversation. And here's our episode with Michaela Reaney on Geordie Pride. You're listening to Geordie Pride, Voices from the Northeast. I'm Hayley, and alongside my cousin Angela, we're thrilled to bring you the stories that share the heart and soul of the Northeast of England. Each episode, we'll dive into the lives of extraordinary Geordies and those who call the Northeast home, exploring their journeys and celebrating their achievements. From the time to the teas, from the arts to the sports fields, we're here to share the tales of passion, resilience, and of course, Geordie Pride. So whether you're from Whitley Bay or Washington, Gateshead or Gisborough, or you're just fascinated by the spirit of the Northeast, join us as we natter with the best the Northeast has to offer. Welcome to the show, Michaela. Thank you so much for joining us on the Geordie Pride podcast.
Thank you for having me. Hello, both.
Hello.
So let's start right at the beginning. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and your roots in the Northeast, where you're from?
Yeah, sure. So I was born and grew up in Middlesbrough in Teesside, and I've pretty much lived in Teesside like on and off my whole life, really. And my kind of roots in the Northeast, my mum's from here, my dad isn't, but they met here. And yeah, grew up in Linthorpe in Middlesbrough, if you know the area, like just outside the town centre. And I've always really enjoyed being in the Northeast. I went to uni actually up in Newcastle, so I lived there for a few years, and I stayed because I loved it so much after uni. And it was that kind of like nice enough distance from home that it felt like I had to live there, and it was a bit of an adventure, but it wasn't too scary. It's still a reasonably sized city, isn't it? So yes, started my career in Newcastle, my first job up there. My first flat that I bought was in Newcastle as well. So yeah, I feel like the Northeast is definitely my home, but I'm kind of between the two because I actually started my first business in Newcastle as well. So had an office in Holt's Yard, just off the quayside on Eusburn. And yeah, love the area. And yeah, I kind of always thought I would end up living there full time, but I've ended up back in Teesside.
And what did you study at university?
I actually studied law randomly, but I realised very, very quickly that I definitely didn't want to be a lawyer. I did a couple of internships, and every internship I did, it was just so boring. I grew up in the Ally McBeal era. That's kind of why I went to do law at uni. So I just assumed that like that's what I'd get to do, like being in court, all these exciting cases, like really high flying stuff. And I suddenly realized it's a lot of paperwork, and it's actually not as glam as TV lets us believe. So yeah, I decided it probably wasn't great for me long term, but actually it's been one of the most useful things running, starting, growing a business, because at least I can understand what the lawyers are saying to me, and I can read, the contracts, and I understand what they mean. And to be honest, it's probably saved me a lot of money over the years, not having to always, need loads of legal advice. But when I have had to, it's been kind of specialist stuff or, more detailed contractual information. So it's actually been more useful than I thought it would be.
So you mentioned starting up businesses and things like that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do now? Because I know you own a lovely business called Opportunity Global, don't you?
I do, yeah. So this is my third business, actually. So I've been, I really struggle with this word, ladies, but I'm getting more comfortable with it, actually, with the help of Donna and Cheryl. I'm an entrepreneur, and I have been for the last 10 years. So I started my first business very much in the kind of early career space. So my background for the last 15 years has always been in learning and development in corporates and kind of larger SMEs, that kind of thing. And I really found that learning often isn't actually available to everyone in an organization. It's often saved for like leaders who were on a high potential program, or you're being fast tracked, and it didn't really feel very fair. So each of my businesses has been about making learning and development actually more like available and accessible to people at every stage in their career. So I like to say I've seen the full life cycle of running a business. I've bought a business and sold it. I've started a business and scaled it. And I've also closed a business, sadly, as well, which is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And that was an apprenticeship business that I was running. And unfortunately, that's what we had to do and go through that process. But my business I'm currently running is still in the learning and development space, but it really focuses down on what I like to call human skills, which are those things that people often say are soft skills, which I hate, because I just think they're the most powerful skills that any of us could ever learn to have in our lives, whether it's in work or in normal days. So we help people have difficult conversations. We help people with feedback, how to give it, how to receive it, because that's not often the easiest thing to do. And we do a lot of work with people in corporate still, but we also work with individuals who are kind of thrown into the deep end of being a leader in an organization, but aren't necessarily given the support on how to do that. And actually some of the stuff that we do now reaches out to people who have been underserved in the community as well. So we do a lot of work in women's prisons. We do quite a bit of work with, young offenders, people quite far from the job market who haven't necessarily had the opportunity to build these skills.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Seems like
That
really
sounds
busy.
amazing.
Yeah, it's good fun. I really enjoy it. I just think learning's so powerful, isn't it? Like that's what I love about podcasts and things like that. Like having that kind of free access to information and learning, like what an incredible opportunity that is. And I think the more that we can help people do that and have access to things, then I think it makes the whole kind of culture, society so much better as well.
So is your business sort of based in the Northeast, or do you kind of travel with it, or?
Yeah, so really good question, because at the moment I'm in Portugal. So yes, the business is based in the Northeast, and my businesses always have. I kind of came back to the Northeast to basically set up businesses because it was much cheaper place to do it than, London or one of the big cities. So yeah, always based that, and our heart is definitely in the north. But we do work across the world. So the big areas that we work in at the moment are the US and the UK. But at the moment, I'm actually working remotely in Portugal because it's been a dream of mine for the last 10 years. And the joy of the company now is that I've built it in a way that I can be location independent. We don't have an office anymore. We actually closed our office in 2021. No one was going back after the pandemic and people wanted more flexibility. So our whole team are remote and home working. And then we get together to collaborate and work on different projects and things. And we just use co-working spaces or meeting rooms, that sort of thing, to do that.
My husband is an independent worker because I work for myself and I just work from home. And my husband is a remote worker as well. From having your business in both settings, have you seen a difference? Because I know there's this massive debate now, isn't there? Like, is home working is efficient and things like that? And
Yeah.
are you going to get enough out of your workers? Have you seen a big difference? Or I presume because you're still going with it, that actually it's working pretty well?
Yeah, so we try, but kind of half of our team pre-COVID were already working remotely anyway. So we'd had experience of it. And I think it comes down to, and I feel like this is everything in any organization, it comes down to trust at the end of the day, and whether you've built a culture where people, you trust them, they trust you, and most importantly, they trust each other as colleagues as well. And we just work in a really simple way with people, that we treat them as adults. We expect, we're really clear with expectations. We set really clear goals of what we're all trying to achieve. We're really clear on what the purpose is and why we do the things that we do and why we don't do some other things. And then everyone's measured against that really as an output. So from a productivity perspective, we've actually found that we're way more productive working flexibly and remotely than we ever were in an office. Because actually, I think in an office, particularly for me, I was probably the worst, Hayley. I'm such a chatterbox that I was actually really disruptive in the office environment. So for me, doing deep work and things, I need to be on my own to do that. I actually like to go and work in like a coffee shop. So there's noise behind me, but I'm not, kind of in the noise, as it were. And we found the same with a lot of our team. I do think for some people, they need an office, and I get that as well. So we in the past have just had like co-working space memberships. So if people want to be in an office kind of environment, they have got that option. But we've never really had any pushback on it. The team work together really well, and we've just invested quite a lot in technology so that we make it really easy for them to communicate and interact with each other and get together regularly in person when we can.
Yeah, I think that's important, especially for morale as well, isn't it? Because sometimes it can be quite lonely working from home.
I agree, definitely. And it's not for everyone, that's for sure. But I think for us, the team and myself included, I like the flexibility. Like if I need to go and do something in the day, I just go and do it. And the team do the same. So, one of the girls in our team, for example, she goes to the gym in the middle of the day and she really likes to do that, or she'll go for a run or she'll do whatever. And the fact that she's at home, it just makes it a lot more practical for her to do that. And it's just really good for her well-being.
Yeah, I think there should be more workforce like that for the work and well-being sort of balance, if you like.
I think it's important, isn't it? Like we spend so much of our lives working, and I think the tide's definitely changing. I think in terms of like the new generations coming into the workforce, they're actually demanding different things from their employer, and they're not willing to settle, right? Like I think we can all learn a lot from them about how they want to set up their life, and their career is part of it, but it's not perhaps all of it. Like at times, I know it has been for other people.
I think there would be a lot more people that would be happier.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I'm very much like you. I was the gasser in the office. So like I love being at home because I get so much done. It's just like, it's amazing. But yeah, I'm a big chatterbox, so it was always be like, ooh, what you like? If I started getting too deep into my work, I'd look over my shoulder and see if there's anyone to chat to.
Totally, I get that.
So you sound obviously a very busy lady and you've achieved a lot of things, but is there anything particularly that you're proud of? It could be personal, could be professional. Like, is there anything
Yeah.
that's just really made your heart feel full?
Yeah. I think something that's like been a recent thing has been the TEDx event that I brought to Teesside. Because it was a bit of a wild idea of mine and just, a bit of a passion project. I was really intentional about what I wanted to achieve, but I still had these niggles, kind of inner critic in the back of my head saying like, who do you think you are doing this? You've never run an event before in your life. You don't know what you're doing, all the usual bollocks, and all that nonsense that we put ourselves through. And you have all those niggles, but then actually when the event happened and the feedback and the impact it's had has literally been incredible, like more than I could have wished for. It was basically the event that I would have loved to have gone to when I was like 13-year-old Michaela living in Middlesbrough, hearing all this shit about how terrible the town is and how terrible the area is and all of that. And it just felt really, really good and positive, especially after having some really tough years in business the last kind of 18 months or so. It felt like this like injection of like energy, life, positivity, not just to myself, but to other people, which was more than I could have really hoped for. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the proudest things that has happened certainly recently, because it feels good to, we shouldn't rely on external validation, of course not, and it's definitely something I'm learning as a recovering people pleaser. But sometimes you do need that boost to say, actually, you've done something good here and people have enjoyed it and got something out of it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I love a good old pat on the back from other people. It's always good, isn't it?
Well, you don't always get it, right?
Yeah, you don't
always get it.
And it's really important that you do that. It's good for morale, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's important that we remember to do that for each other as well. And like, it doesn't have to be the big things. I actually think sometimes it's those little things, little moments. It's not the huge celebrations that people really remember. If you just see someone doing something really good, or, I said to someone the other day, I'd seen them doing some really like quite personal, vulnerable stuff on social media. And I just sent them a message saying like, I'm really loving what you're sharing, and it feels really authentic, and it's really brave thing to do, and I love it. And they said it made their day, because it's scary putting yourself out there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, it really is, and I agree. It's those little notes from people that just fill you full of confidence, because you don't realize necessarily how scary some of those things are to do, and yeah, it can take a lot, and just having someone just acknowledge it and just noticing that you're doing something is just nice to feel. It was just to circle back a little bit onto TEDx, because for me, TEDx or like a TED talk is on my vision board. It's something I've wanted to do, and I'm going to do one of these days. I promise myself.
I love that for you. That's very exciting.
I'm excited too. I will do it.
I've just learned what TEDx is, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that was my question, because I was going to say, can you just explain a little bit about what TEDx is, and like how you feel that benefits the Northeast as a whole?
Yeah, sure. So TED as a brand is like the global brand that started in the US and Canada, and they have the TED Talk platform. So they have these amazing TED Talks that anyone can go on. There's pretty much every possible subject covered, and they're free to access. So linking back to what I said earlier, that idea of like learning and content being available to people, I get really excited about. The other thing I absolutely love is ideas. So the whole concept of TED is that it gives a platform to people to share ideas. So I've been involved with like the TED Global brand for a couple of years and involved in stuff in the US, which was really interesting. Got really excited about it. And I wanted to bring some of that magic back home, basically. And the way that TED let you do that is by applying for a license. So a TEDx is basically an independently organized event where people are on stage doing their TEDx talks, and it's basically given as a license from TED. So all the rules, the guidance, what you do, how a TED talk runs, the filming of it, like there are so many rules to follow. But that obviously is really good because it means they're protecting their brand, they're protecting the integrity and like the credibility of TED. So TEDx means you get access in every community in the world. So I think there's about 3,000 TEDx talks that happen globally each year, all different sizes in loads of different places. But there's never been a TEDxWomen event in the north. So there's always one in London, but there hasn't been one in the north. So I decided to do a TEDxWomen, not just a standard TEDx. And then from a Teesside perspective, the closest TEDx event is either Newcastle or Manchester. So even in the northeast at the moment, we only have one TEDx, which was TEDx Newcastle, which has been running for quite a few years. The team are amazing. They've done incredible things with it. It's really grown. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that the kind of south of the region got some of that experience as well.
So is it like if you went to like a sort of conference where everybody's together and it's filmed, or is it like kind of just digitally?
No, it's a live event as well, but then all of the TED Talks are filmed to the TED standard, and then they go onto the TEDx YouTube channel, which has about something like 38 million subscribers. So it's a massive platform. That's not even it's bigger than the TED one actually, which is amazing, and huge amounts of engagement. So it's a really good opportunity for anyone who does want to speak on a TEDx stage for like their brand, their mission, whatever their idea is to share. It's really good for them because it means that they've got like longevity there, that they've got the talk to keep linking people back to in the future, as well as engaging with the audience like in the room as well.
Wow, it's a good concept.
Yeah, it's good fun. And it's very like, you can do lots of different things with it, right? Like every TEDx event I've been to is very different because they have like a different theme, a different way of like putting it together, but all of the organizers and the team are volunteering on the most part their time, to make it happen. So it feels like a very like community-led initiative rather than being a conference by a particular organization, if that makes sense.
You can get lost for hours on YouTube with TED.
Oh my god!
Once you go down the rabbit hole, it is very difficult.
You really can.
So when I hear you talk, you're very, very passionate about kind of raising the profile and I suppose the aspirations of the Northeast. Why do you think that is so important to you? Why do you think that is? Where's it come from?
There's probably a couple of things I think of to answer that. I think one, if I'm really honest, I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with my hometown, Middlesbrough. Like growing up, I didn't know any better, obviously, because I only knew living there, but I was picked on quite a bit, both at school and even in the workplace, can you believe, from being from Borough. And so that kind of, it does affect you, right? Like it does make you think differently about like the area and get frustrated that people have these kind of assumptions that they make when they've probably never even been. And so part of that has continued as an adult because when Plan UK named Middlesbrough the worst place to be born a girl, it really, really pissed me off because I understand they've got to, use data and make these, comments and decisions. But I personally don't think that's reflected in how people feel who are born and brought up in the area. Like, don't get me wrong, there are massive amounts of problems like there are in lots of parts of the Northeast. We know that, right? There's serious things that the politicians need to change, etc. But there's also an incredible amount of talent. There's an incredible amount of passion. And I think often we just don't necessarily get the opportunities to really celebrate that and shout about it. So, I mean, I know I'm talking a lot there about Middlesbrough in particular and Teesside, but I would say that's reflected in quite a lot of parts of the Northeast. And, you know, Hartlepool has since been named as well, like the second worst place to be born a girl. We know there's other, you know, societal issues in lots of different parts of the region, but there's so much to celebrate here as well. And I think sometimes we don't do ourselves justice in how we celebrate and shout about the amazing things and the amazing people that we have in the region, because there's some incredible stuff going on, but we're often a bit like not joined up with it is probably the best way I'd describe it. You know, it's kind of like there's even how we're devolved politically. It's like Tees Valley, then the Northeast, then, you know, Durham and County Durham are kind of doing something different. And whereas I've always thought of us as one region, you know, if someone asked me, I'm from the Northeast, what does that mean? You know, where is that area? And we need to almost get better at marketing who we are as a region and all the incredible things going on. Because sometimes if we're not doing, like, no one's going to do it for us, right? And I think there's just something about that pride in the area that we need to use as a bit of a superpower. Sorry, yeah, that was a bit of a rant.
No, it's so lovely to hear, because that's exactly how we feel as well. Because it's not exactly the same. Well, I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but me and Angela are from Ashton, and it's got a bit of a reputation for not being a great area of Northumberland. And as I say, I'm sure there's some survey somewhere that talks about how awful Ashton is. So we feel very similar. I mean, I used to get, like, people ask me where I'm from, and I'd say, oh, I'm from Ashton, and they'd be like, oh, you're from Ashton, and like, oh, it's a shithole and stuff like that. And yeah, it does affect you. So when you said that, like, getting bullied at school from it and stuff, that I completely get that, because I would get that when I went to university, and I'd say where I was from, people would roll their eyes, and it's what the main driver for doing this podcast is, because I feel so proud to be from the Northeast, and I feel proud to be from Ashton, even though people might not see its wonderful qualities. I think just the Northeast as a whole can sometimes get a little bit of a bad reputation for surveys such as that. And it's just so nice to be able to stand up and go, look, you know what, we're not all that bad. It's a bloody lovely place. So there's so many good qualities about the region itself and the people that's in it. So let's just shout about it and talk about it and just go, hi, we're over here and we're pretty bloody awesome.
Yeah. And it's like so that balance, nice, isn't it?
That. Yeah. Yeah. And be proud to be a woman as well. Let's face it, in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's something about creating those like role models and that representation for people across the whole piece, right? You know, the more that we can create platforms like you guys are doing with this amazing podcast, the more then, you know, those little girls that maybe did get picked on from where they were from don't feel so alone. And, you know, and boys and, you know, every gender. But I think that's part of it, isn't it? If you can see that someone who's like you from your town has gone on to do, you know, incredible things. It might be big stuff, it might be small stuff, but it's important, impactful things. Then I think that's the bit that would really resonate if I was a kid now, that you can do it too.
Yeah, definitely. And is there anything that you, or any other ways that you think we can get better as a region to celebrate us and showcase all of the wonderful people and all the wonderful things that happen in the Northeast?
Yeah, I don't think I have the silver bullet. I think it's probably a combination of different things. But I think there's something about, you know, the politicians are never going to do it, right? We can't wait for them to do anything potentially, but I know this isn't about politics. We won't go into that. But I do think that we can't wait for other people to do it. And I think it's like a combined effort of those like incremental steps, those little baby steps of communities coming together. What the Northeast has been built on, I think, is that community spirit. And maybe because of the way we all have such busy, fast lives and COVID and other things happening, actually in COVID, we kind of got some of that community spirit back, I thought. I know that it's horrendous in lots of other ways, but I think a glimmer that I definitely got from that is like people looking out for their neighbours, people helping each other, people coming together to do things, to support each other, you know, clapping for the NHS, all of those things. That for me feels like what we're really good at as a region, celebrating each other, you know, giving each other that pat on the back, helping other people rise if you've got an opportunity, bringing other people with you. And I think maybe just because of the pace of life, technology, all those other things, maybe sometimes we don't have enough time to do that anymore. And so I don't think that'll fix everything, but maybe it's a way that if we can all think a little bit about what can we give back to our community, you know, can we volunteer an hour a month in a food bank? Can we, you know, do something else? It doesn't always have to be having to give money. That's not possible, you know, in every circumstance, but maybe there's a way that we can give our time or check in on each other a bit more and celebrate each other's wins as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a level of modesty as well, isn't it? I think there's a big
yes, that's so
a
true.
big attitude of like, let's just get on, like we all have shit times, let's all just get on and just get on with it. And no one necessarily really stops and thinks and just looks at what they've done and what they've managed to achieve. It's just a very much of a just wipe your pants off and just get on with it. And it
we play it
really
down a lot. Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
Have you read a book called Fuck Being Humble?
Oh no.
Okay, so
Sounds interesting.
that's good. It's a good book.
Good title.
I know it's very strong, isn't it? But it's kind of about that concept that, like, sometimes we play ourselves down so much, like to the detriment of ourselves and others, right? And maybe that's where we don't do enough celebrating of the really good stuff in the region and like literally shouting from the rooftops all of the great stuff that are happening to block out or at least minimize those surveys, those reports, whatever people who are not from here want to say about us. Because I don't know if you've ever done this, but I'm a bit of a geek. But on TikTok, for example, if you search Middlesbrough, it's literally ream after ream of all of these horrendous TikTok videos of so-called investigative journalists coming to the area and basically taking photos of every possible bad thing that they can see and then turning it into a video. Or it's got people just going on and slating the area. Now, if I was a teenager or a kid and you're living in that area, it's not going to make you feel great about yourself or the place, is it? So I think there's also a responsibility on all of us that when something is good happening, we need to be shouting about it. We need to be sharing it. We need to be supporting each other in it. Because actually that over time builds momentum so that maybe that negative noise can be dampened down a bit. Because, you know, we're from here. We know how many incredible people there are, things going on. But I'm not sure if you're not from here, would that be your impression? I don't know.
Paints like a different picture to what
it
we
does
see.
a bit.
Yeah. And I find that just so bizarre. Like, what do you think the media, like, what are they missing? Like, why are they targeting that in such a negative way? I just don't know where it comes from and what they gain from it.
No, I don't. I think it's clickbait journalism. I mean, these aren't like highbrow journalists, I don't think, but I think it's clickbait. I think it's divisive. You know, if you think what the media are doing to marginalized groups in the UK right now, it's divisive. It's, you know, bigoted views and behaviors. So I think there's a bit of that going on, but who knows what they're aiming to get from it. I just think maybe they don't think about the impact that then has on people in the area.
So we can overpower it. Come on, ladies.
Yes, come on, the Geordie Pride. This podcast is going to do it.
So that probably leads me nicely into the next couple of questions. Is
okay.
What do you? Let me rephrase it. What does being from the Northeast mean to you?
Yeah, I do think there's this bit about pride. I think there's something about the people here, like wherever you go, you know, whether you're in Newcastle with the Geordies or in the south of the region or in County Durham, you know, I think there's something about how friendly people are and how welcoming they are. One of the things that really stuck with me from the TEDx event that we did last year is we had a speaker fly in from the US. And the best feedback I heard was that she said it was the nicest, most welcoming event she'd ever been to, that people were just falling over themselves to help her, to show her where things were, to support her. And she just, for me, that summed up what the Northeast is for me. It's got incredible people who've got incredible ideas and they want to connect with people. And you know, I think we're a really friendly, lovely bunch.
It's quite common, and everybody who we've asked that question always say the same thing about how friendly we are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
It is good. And I think that community spirit is part of it, isn't it, really? Looking out for each other. And, you know, it's amazing. In Portugal, I went to a yoga class, didn't know anyone. And obviously chattering away, even though, you know, quite a few people don't speak the same language as me. And the person next to me said, "Are you from the north?" And it was a Geordie. So we got chatting. She lives in Newcastle. Obviously, I live in Teesside. And, you know, we get everywhere around the world and we keep spreading that positive, friendly, welcoming energy, don't we? And I think that's really nice.
Yeah, me too. I think it is just so nice whenever because I live in West Yorkshire now.
Okay.
And I've lived here for about 9 years. And it's as soon as I hear a Northeast accent, I'm like, I'm just wanting to migrate over to them.
Yeah.
Oh, speak to me, please. It just feels just so nice and so different.
It does.
And
feels like home.
Miss it. Yeah, it does. It really does. And if I go to the supermarket when I visit back home, because we try to go up quite regularly, and I can wander around Asda for ages just listening to people talking.
I love that.
So looking ahead, Michaela, is there any plans that you've got, any goals for the future that you want to bring to the Northeast?
Yeah, I think definitely in terms of the Northeast, there's a couple of things that I'm working on. I sit on the board for Home House Prison in Stockton, and there's a couple of projects that I'm looking at scoping out with the prison and to improve, you know, everyone's life in the Northeast. So that's quite exciting. Obviously, TEDx is a big one. I know I've rabbited on about it a lot, but that's coming back to the region in 2024. So we've got a date, which is the 16th of October. I don't actually think we've said that publicly. So there you go. You've got an exclusive. So 16th of October in Middlesbrough. It's going to be a bit bigger than last year. So we want to reach more people and have even more impact. And then my hope is that I'd really like to do something with young people on a TEDx stage, especially young people that have been, you know, particularly underserved in their community with opportunities to go to events, but also to speak at events. Because I do think there's something really powerful about learning the skills to be able to publicly speak, you know, especially with the world now where we've got podcasting, we've got, you know, more speaking events, we've got YouTube, you name it. And I think it would be really cool to see young people getting coaching and support to learn how to have the confidence to be on stage, but then to get the opportunity to do a TEDx youth. Because normal TEDx, you have to be 18 or over, but there is a TEDx youth that I think would be really cool to bring to the region.
Sounds really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Be good, wouldn't
that would
it?
be great, because especially is what you've been talking about there, that well, and our experiences growing up, that when you live in an area that's not necessarily got the best perception from the outside, that your confidence gets knocked. So having something like that where they can stand up and proudly talk about things, and like you say, get the training and coaching for being able to do that, I think that's really wonderful. I love that idea.
Yeah, I do. And just having somebody there is just to believe in you as well, that you can do it. Because we all get knocked down at some time in my life, and it's always nice to like hold your hand out and say, come on, it's okay, you can do this. And I think
even to get the opportunity, right? Like, I don't think I'd have loved that when I was younger. I mean, I might not have necessarily had the confidence to put myself forward to begin with, but if someone encouraged me, and, you know, I think that would have been a really, really cool experience. And I think it then gives people a voice as well that maybe otherwise don't feel like they have.
Yeah, it's definitely something that should have been around when we were a lot younger. Sure.
Would be dominating the world now, ladies.
We are. You are. This podcast is going to do
it. Fingers crossed.
Oh, it is. And do you know what? I think it's just really cool what you're doing to bring lots of different voices, different perspectives, you know, together in the region. And I think that's really cool, because you're already doing it. You are celebrating what's going on here, aren't you?
Yeah, let's fly the flag, and exactly what you're doing with the TEDx Teesside as well. It's like, let's fly the flag for the region, and just encourage the next generation to do what they want to do, and everything that they want to achieve, they can achieve. Doesn't matter where you're from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, we've got a little quick fire round for you. So you've not seen any questions. We're going to ask you them, and you could just answer the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh, okay. I'm nervous. Yeah. I feel like it's a quiz. Is there a prize?
Unfortunately, no.
You can see I'm goal motivated. Yeah, a bit competitive there. Sorry.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. So
Okay. Nothing too scary then. Go for it.
Okay, I've got the first question. So, drum roll: stotty cake or peas pudding?
Peas pudding. Have to say.
I know. See, I really miss stotties.
I know. I mean, I do love them as well, but having peas pudding sandwich, I just it's lovely. It reminds me of my nana. She used to always make me them.
It's a nice thick ham on it.
Yeah.
Next one is, what is your favourite iconic Northeast landmark?
Okay. You might guess this already because of the TEDx branding, but it's a slightly random one, because I know there's a lot more famous ones, but it's Newport Bridge for me in Teesside. So not Transporter, Newport. So you know the flyover in Teesside, when you drive it, you can see it from there. It's often different colours and stuff. But yeah, that's my favourite bridge, because whenever you're on the A19, it's the one you can see, and that's when I always knew, right, I'm home now.
Yeah, a bit like the
Yes, exactly. It's not as famous or glamorous, this bridge, but it's a good bridge. I've actually got a picture of it in my house, which is a bit sad.
I know, I've got random just Northeast landmarks dotted around my house as well.
It's not just me then, I love it.
Right, next one. Your top spot to visit in the Northeast.
Oh.
Don't say the bridge.
No. Oh gosh, that's a really tricky one. Oh. Do you know, I love the coast.
So many good things.
I know. I love the coast. I think we're really spoiled that I can think of really good beaches, literally from Northumberland, Tyne and Weir, and Teesside, like just every single one of those beaches. So I think if I was bringing anyone to the region that was from out of here, I'd definitely take them to one of those. But are you going to push me on which one, or can I just say the beaches?
I think we should push you.
I feel like I need to say something not too Teesside centric. So I'm going to say, I really like the beach at Bamburgh. I like it there.
Oh,
It's beautiful, isn't it?
I think it's really,
it is a hard one to beat.
With the castle, and it's very beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Next one. What is your go-to order at Greg's?
Cheese and onion pasty would be my go-to. Cheese and onion pasty every time. Yeah. I don't even care if they're not warm.
Traditional.
I'd still think it's delicious. None of this vegan stuff, not for me. I would have a sausage roll if it wasn't that.
On sausage roll dummies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true though. I remember I used to go up the street with my mum, and she used to because back when I was little, you used to be able to just leave like your prams outside and you go to the shop, wouldn't you? So my mum would go into Greg's and she'd come out with a sausage roll and just stick it in my gob, and I'd be happy for a good half hour munching on a sausage roll.
You brought up on sausage rolls from Greg. Oh, right. Can you describe the northeast of England in only 3 words?
In only 3 words. Oh, this is tricky, ladies. Okay. Ooh, passionate, proud. I'm thinking of all P's now. Passionate, proud, and powerful. I'm going to go for.
Oh, I like that.
It.
And I love the alliteration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to say it was designed, but it just randomly started that way.
So my last one is Geordie Shore. Yes or no?
Absolutely not. Awful program. I think I watched
to watch it.
Yeah, I watched like the first part of one episode when it first ever launched, and I was just horrified by the whole thing. I never watched it again, and it also really upset
quite traumatizing.
That beautiful mansion house in Newcastle that was then used for the Geordie Shore house. I feel like that really ruined that street for me as well.
Just soiled it.
It did. It soiled it. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, well done to all the people who've made careers off the back of it. Like, absolutely go for it. I'm not here to judge that at all. I'm not a massive reality TV person anyway, and I don't really think it did us any favours.
No, I don't think it helped contribute to the positive nature we want in order to be looked upon. So before we say goodbye to you, is there anything else that you want to share with us? Any upcoming events or projects that you'd like to share?
Just again about the TEDx, like a general release of tickets will be happening sometime soon. So if anyone's interested in learning more, finding out about it, then if we can put in the show notes the link to the website, they can join up to the mailing list. So people will be the first to hear. As soon as tickets release, they'll be able to get all the new news about speakers being released, what to expect, that kind of thing. So I'd really recommend people do that. And then also, if anyone listening would like to apply to speak at the event as well. So again, on the same website link, there's like a speaker application part that they can go to, get all the information on the process of how to apply, what we're looking for. And yeah, just really want to encourage people from across the region as well as outside the region, come here, get to know the people and get on the stage and speak at our event would be really cool.
Brilliant. Sounds so exciting. You never know, I might apply myself.
Yeah. Go for it.
So if anyone wants to follow you or get in touch with you, have you got any social media handles or email address on this you'd like to share?
Yeah, so the best thing to do is to follow me on either LinkedIn really easy to find, Michaela Reaney. There is only me on there. And also Instagram, it's at MJ Reaney. So again, maybe if we can put those in the show notes, they're the best places to keep an eye on projects that I'm working on, listen to my ramblings of various different thoughts and stuff as well. So yeah, that's the best place to find us. And also if we can just share the TEDx website as well, so that people can find out about that too. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, perfect. We'll add all that into the show notes, and I'll also hunt out that that book you mentioned, and I'll put the link to that as well, because that's interesting. I might check that out. But yeah, thank you so much for spending time with both Angela and I tonight. It's been lovely speaking to you, and yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. It's been fab.
Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support Geordie Pride further, then don't forget to subscribe, share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Geordie Pride. Until next time, keep that Geordie Pride shining bright.